Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So today we will be talking about really the games that I played against our Simul members from the last 2 weeks because I did not get a chance to make a video for the previous week. So I'm really sorry about that, but let's try to rebound it and let's try to condense all the games within a 2 week span. So I'm going to analyze all the games. I promise I will get to them all. I just want to let you know that we're getting to them. So, in this game, I am facing Aron, and Aron's playing white. I am playing black. So, of course, every time I play Aron, I like to test one opening. I like to test the Owen's defense multiple times. I just like to see if the lesson is learned, right? And it's always interesting. Aron tries to come up with a different setup every time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This time around, let's see how it goes. Knight f3, bishop b7. So Owen's defense just looking towards the center, trying to attack it, and after knight c3, e6, I want to bring my bishop here. But after b3, which is somewhat strange, I have two options. Number one, I play bishop b4, threaten to take the knight and then take the pawn, or I play the move knight f6. So in this position, I invite white from playing the move e5, because after e5, I play the move knight e4. After knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop b2, bishop e7. It is a game. The bishop has the diagonal. Black will play d6 later, and essentially both sides are satisfied. So I decided to allow it. I could have also played bishop b4, and after something like, let's say, bishop b2, now after knight f6, e5, and bishop takes, and knight e4. Something like this. I mean, black would be okay, white would have the bishop pair, but it would still be a game. So in the game, I played knight f6, but our friend Aron played bishop b2. And here's where I got the pawn. Trust me, a lot of people miscount the center pawn. So at the start of the game, yes, I tell you that it's important to control the center. It's important to, let's say, develop your pieces. It's important to get your king castled, right? So all of that is important, but also protecting your central pieces or your central pawns is as equally as important as all the three tips mentioned. So after knight takes, bishop takes, now you can see that, okay, white sort of has the pieces developed, and the thing is that even after you castle, there's no like sort of aggression going on in the center. So right now, black is safely up a pawn, right? So that is the goal. So after bishop e7, then comes the move bishop takes g7. And now you might be like, well, Aron disrupted my castling, right? But I play rook g8, and I definitely saw bishop takes g7, because here's the thing. This bishop focuses on this diagonal, right? So if I play rook g8 now, and I look toward g2, that is going to be devastating. But here white has the move bishop e5. And after rook takes g2, there is bishop g3, threatening the move king f1 and trapping the rook. So, what did I plan after bishop e5? Well, I plan to move knight c6. And after you bring back the bishop to g3, well, I have bishop to b4 check, just essentially telling the king to move. And after the king moves, bishop c3, just asserting control over these dark squares, right? And so even though black might be, you know, black might just, he just lost his extra pawn, or yeah, he just lost his extra pawn. That's okay because black has so much play in the center, this compared to white's very ugly pieces. So it's more about the less about the material and more about the dominance in the position. So after rook g8, bishop h6, I play rook takes g2. Now, you're like, okay, why didn't you play bishop b4 here? Well, after bishop b4, I was thinking, okay, bishop d2, bishop takes d2. Now, even the move king takes d2, maybe cycling over to b2 and getting cover. But, you know, I just decided not to. Made it simple. Play the move rook takes g2. Open up the diagonal. After queen d2, I play the move bishop to f6, opening this diagonal. So at this point, I was not worried about this. I was just thinking about ways I could use these diagonals to really take advantage of my position. Now, at this moment, I sort of thought, what if I could get my queen to f6, right? Attack the rook and put pressure on this knight at the same time. That's the goal. So I played bishop f6, and after knight h4, which was a mouse slip apparently, I just said, I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to threaten this rook with this bishop, and I'm going to threaten this rook. So at this moment, white has the move castle queenside to use this rook to protect the other one. But queen f4 happened, and I said, do I want to be greedy? Yeah, I will. After f3, well, I brought my bishop back to f6, and I said, I can't go here. Knight goes here, rook takes. So I'm all in the clear. So after king f2 takes, queen f6 comes in. I'm like, you know what? I will trade all the way. But after queen b4, queen takes h6, f4, and the move bishop takes h1, all the pieces for white are somewhat gone, and Aron resigned. So what really happened in this game was, number one, the collapse, well, this didn't happen, but after knight f6, a collapse of the center. That was really important. And also the move bishop takes g7, allowing rook g8 was just too much counterplay for black. Essentially, after castles and castles, even though white is down a pawn, it's going to be a slow game. It's not going to last very fast. So, essentially, after opening everything up, I just got everything that I wanted. So let's move on to the next game I played against Aron. So I played b3 as white, the Nimzovich-Larsen attack, just simply copying what I do as the black's Owen's defense. After e5, bishop b2, you'll see that, I'm starting with the same theme as the Owen's defense. I'm basically playing this on the white side. My threat again is to take and take. And once again, I got Aron to fall for it. So a6, bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop takes e5. The trick of getting a pawn in the center, it never gets old sometimes. That's a very important thing to remember, though, but always remember to count the number of defenders and count the number of attackers and sort of, look at the position. First, question yourself, is your opponent threatening something? If your opponent is not, then proceed with what you do. But if your opponent is threatening something, then you ask yourself, how do I address that threat? Right? So it's the fundamental thought process of saying, let me look at my opponent. Is he or she doing anything? And if not, what can I do? Right? So after bishop f5, knight c3, now we're just developing. And you see, I brought my knight to g3, particularly because I might have wanted to play h4, h5, but also because maybe like an expansion in the center with e4, d4. So after castles, I said, you want me to take advantage of your pawn structure? I'll take that. And after queen f3, threaten both pawns. Queen d7, very nice move. But now I reroute my knight. My knight on e2, maybe go to d4, maybe go to g3. So after c5, good move, I play knight g3, and after rook e8, knight takes f5, rook a b8, and unaware that Aron is already lost, I play knight takes g7, threatening queen takes f6 or bishop takes f6, and after rook e6, knight takes, queen takes, bishop takes f6, it is game over, and Aron resigns. So in this game, it was another case of, being able to take this pawn. That was really important in my play. But the second most thing was allowing me to cripple black's pawn structure. So if black played bishop e6, it would have been much harder to continue with what I did in the game. So in the game, I basically used this very weak pawn to pile up, and this pawn, sort of this weak diagonal, it gave me the light and it gave me the win. Let's move on to the third game that I played against Aron. f4. So now a bird happens. After knight c6, knight f3, f6. Not a move I would usually recommend for a bird, but it is what it is. d4, e6, e4. So now I have this three pawn center, and b6 felt very strange, first of all, because d5 is a very worrisome looking move. And I can't stress that hard enough that sometimes if you don't fight for the center, your opponent's going to throw it all in the center, and eventually you'll be so overwhelmed that you won't be able to develop any of the other guys, right? So at the same time, controlling the center makes room for your developing pieces. So that's part of it. But after b6, now d5, e takes, and now I bring out the pawn with c4. Queen e2 is also possible, putting a pin on the knight. Or d6 was also possible. I just thought, let's not rush it. So I played c4, c6, and now knight c3, bishop b7, bishop c4. You can see that I'm holding on to this pawn because this pawn is very strong in being able to prevent the development of the knight, prevent this development. So after rook c8, now let me leave you with this idea. What is one way in which black can coordinate the pieces here? Try to figure it out, and I'll see you next time.